Hello, everyone, and welcome to Every Womyn and Her Dog, a podcast where we talk about the things women whisper about in kitchens, voice note to their friends, and think about at 2 a.m. I'm your host, Joanne Lee, coach, therapist, and change maker. Each episode, we explore the realities of womanhood and cover topics ranging from identity shifts, feminine cycles, to self-leadership, relationships, burnout, and ambition, bringing to the surface the quiet reinventions happening behind closed doors for women. This is the being and becoming of personal agency. Let's get into it. Welcome to today's episode. I'm joined for a deep dive discussion with Katelyn today in this beautiful intimate container to support our discussion. As always, our conversation will be filled with truth, reflection, and possibly some uncomfortable realizations, right? What we know is that growth isn't linear and neither are women. Before we dive in, let me introduce again Katelyn. Katelyn Dwyer-Taylor from Tailor-Made Digital Solutions is a mum of 2 girls and my behind-the-scenes powerhouse, bringing my work to life. Welcome, Katelyn. How are you today?
Exhausted.
And this would be because?
Babies and children and life cycles.
Yes.
Because it's the eldest birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday to her.
Cycle.
It is a cycle indeed, which hits it right on the head because today we're talking about something that quietly shapes everything, the cycle within the cycle. Let's get into it. I'm going to hand it over to you, Katelyn.
When we talk about women being cyclical, most people reduce it to our periods. I know I do. That's what my brain goes to straight away.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just surface level. So today we're going to talk about energy, identity, seasons, becoming, going that little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So Jo, what do you actually mean when you say women are cyclical beyond just their period?
Well, it's the recognition that as women, we live the cycle within the cycle. So yes, we have a menstrual cycle, and that cycle is with us for the majority of our adult life until we reach the rite of passage menopause. We also then have the cycle of life and death. So within that cycle, a woman has different seasons within that cycle. And those cycles that we live from birth to death, and also the menstrual cycle, which is a birth-death cycle again, they integrate and interconnect into our earth cycles because they're reflective of those cycles. So there's a deep connection with the earth and her cycles and how she moves. And also we're connecting into the lunar cycle because traditionally our menstrual cycle wasn't called a menstrual cycle. It's either called our moon cycle or our moon time. So understanding these principles as a woman is really important because sometimes it can feel like nothing makes sense. But when you understand the cycle within the cycle that we live, all of a sudden everything makes sense. And it also gives you a permission slip not to live the same way all the time every day because our cycle peaks and troughs, the same as the tides peak and trough of the world, so do our cycles.
So what is the cycle within the cycle? Clearly it's not just hormonal.
No. It's part of it, right? It's definitely part of it.
Yeah. I think a lot of women feel like they've lost themselves when they really might just be in a different season, transitioning between those seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain Maiden, Maga, and Crone?
Yeah. So if we go way back into our ancestral knowledge, feminine ancestral knowledge, our matriarchal knowledge, the triple-headed goddess has existed for a long time. That's the Maiden, the Mother, and the Crone.
Yeah.
And this is represented in lots of different esoteric teachings as well as ancient, it shows up in a lot of ancient history. We see that that's represented by the 2 crescent moons and the full moon in the middle.
Yeah.
And that was traditionally the representation of the seasons of a woman. The Maiden being the first season, the Mother being the middle season, and then the Crone being the final season. It was also, when we talk about the Maiden, the Mother, the Maga, and the Crone, that has a better representation of our seasons and the way that we sit within those seasons now in this current world, in this current time, because jumping from the Mother to the Crone is a big jump. And what we know is that our lives have changed. Women are having babies at a different time in their lives, and things are quite different to what they were when we were younger, or as a generational thing, thousands of years, if more than thousands of years. So I like to hone in onto that newer version because I think it's more applicable for women of this time and age.
Yeah.
As a woman, we have 4 cycles. We have the maiden cycle, which starts from birth and goes to 25, and the rite of passage that is celebrated or that marks the full blooming of that cycle is our first monarch, which is our first cycle, our first menstrual cycle, which is called monarch. So that is the moment that a woman starts to move into womanhood, and traditionally we would celebrate that. It wouldn't be what it is today, and we'll get into that in a minute. Exactly. But so traditionally, this would be a festival or a season that a woman would celebrate with other women, or sometimes even with the whole village, because it was such a rite of passage, a lot like men that have coming of age manhood ceremonies. This was what a woman would have.
Yeah.
Maidenhood goes to about 25. And then our next season starts to kick in, and that's the mother season. And that goes from 25 to about 50. And just going back a little bit for a second, the maiden cycle, if you initiate that with a season, it's the spring season. Lots of bright, vibrant energy and, a flower just starting to bloom and look beautiful. Yeah? Not fully exposed, but it's in the rosette sort of stage. Yeah. Then when we move to the mother cycle, so that's 25 to 50, that is the summertime of a woman's life. It's the fullest, most peak period of a woman's life in terms of her output. Now, whether you are mothering human babies, or you're mothering businesses, or you're mothering nieces and nephews, or families, or communities, whatever you're doing in that mothering stage, regardless of whether you give birth or not to a human baby, it was a very full season. And like high summer and the full moon, it's peak. It's a peak illumination, and there's a lot going on. You're in your mother season right now. And traditionally, what marks the knowing or the rite of passage is birth. But we don't necessarily just birth babies. We can be birthing lots of stuff. As women, we are creatrixes. We are life givers, so we give life to many, many, many things. And traditionally, giving life to a human baby is a rite of passage. So there's pregnancy, that takes us through. And then there's the birthing, and then there's the raising of the child. So there's a lot that goes on, and that happens with anything that we give birth to. There's an infancy of everything. There's a labouring of everything. There's a gestation of everything. So that is the next season of a woman's life, the summer season. Then we move to the Maga season, and that's from about 50 to 70. And that is what we class as the autumn time of a woman's life. And what we know happens in autumn times, seasonally, is that's a harvest season. So we're harvesting in our Maga season. We're harvesting and gleaning everything that we've learned from the beginning of our lives through that autumn time. And we often refer to the Maga season as the most powerful time in a woman's life because she's developed herself by that stage. And it's so interesting because this area is really controversial because it's the area of what marks this rite of passage, menopause. Yeah. And of course, what do we know about the narratives of menopause? Well,
dreaded as well.
Yes, yeah, it's we'll get into that. I'm sure we will, because I know that you have questions. But that's the autumn time of a woman's life. What marks that rite of passage is the menopause, which the menopause cycle or the menopause portal that we travel. That sits directly opposite the maiden journey, which is the entrance into her monarch, and now we're leaving. So that sits directionally opposite.
Yeah.
And that then that goes through till about 70. And from 70 until death, we hit the final season of a woman's life, which is the Crone season, the wise wisdom keeper, the woman who holds space for community even more than what she did before. These women are so rich in knowledge and wisdom that they're handing this over. We see them as the wise grandmother type or older woman, eldership women that we meet. It's sometimes just incidentally, and then they've always got these amazing nuggets of information to share with us or insights, and they've spent a long time on the earth. So their medicine is rich. And we call that the winter time of a woman's life, where she's a bit more reclusive, but she still has potent medicine to share with the world.
Yeah.
How's that landing for you?
It's a lot.
Does it feel, even though it's a lot, is there an internal knowing that feels real for you as a woman?
Yeah. Like, part of me now is a bit, I'm like, oh, maidenhood was rough, motherhood's rough, Maga's probably going to be a bit rough. But I'm also kind of looking forward to each stage. I don't want to waste the season I'm in right now, because I'm like, oh, Maga sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm a long way off.
Try menopause.
I'm a long way from that. Yeah, I'd like to be able to embrace more the season I'm in now.
Perhaps I use it like this. What about if you were to look at it as the benefits of each season? Like, if you look at spring, what do you love about spring?
Usually because it's my birthday.
No,
spring is my favourite, I think. It always makes me feel really lively.
Yeah.
And I always feel really uplifted.
Yeah. And that is, in essence, the quintessential feeling in maidenhood.
Yeah.
You know, you've got that carefree, wild abandonment feeling that you have in that early stage. And even though you're transitioning the fluctuating weather and you don't know what to wear and it's jacket on, jacket off type, but, weather and things like, but there's still the essence of that there's this quiet confidence about springtime too, like about this expanding feeling. Yeah. That's how I feel about
and
potential.
Then, I always feel like starting something new in spring.
Yeah.
And then whenever I think of summer, I just think of heat and sweating. But then that kind of makes me think of hard work, which that's what it's like being in like the mother season. And if it's raising children or raising a business or raising furry babies, it's all hard work, and that I feel like that really ties into summer. Summer's hard work.
And rewarding, but what do we get in exchange for summer? We get beautiful long days, swimming time at the beach. We get to engage in all these really rich, connective experiences. And that's exactly what that mother season is about. It is. There's a lot of labour through that time, but there's also a lot of reward.
Yeah.
And that reward comes in so many different ways. And whether that's the reward of seeing a business grow, or seeing your children grow and develop, or watching your animals do the same thing, whatever you choose in that period of mothering, it is work. Like, we know that summer they're long days.
Yep. We
love it, right? Because we feel like we can really glean a lot out of those days, and we get more done, because in contrast in winter you're just like, I just can't get enough done, like I can't get things across the line the way that you would in summer. So it has its goods and its bads, right? But in essence, it's long days, it's bright days, it's full days. And within that summer season, at the beginning of summer, everyone's like, oh, thank goodness, I needed to, like, I was ready for this weather, you know. But by the end of summer, everyone's like, oh my God, I just need it to slow down now.
Yeah.
Like, there is that, you can't, and that really plays to this fact that we cannot sustain peak illumination consistently.
Yeah.
We're not run like that as women, but we're told that we should be. We're made to prescribe to the fact that we need to be on 24/7, 7 days a week, and that's how we should be all the time, which is so far from the truth as a woman that it's almost laughable to me now. But I didn't always think like that.
There's a lot of shame around feeling like you have to be like consistent all the time and expecting ourselves to operate like robots and machines and work, and then you turn off at bedtime and then you switch back on in the morning and you have to keep going on, which then just leads into burnout and ignoring like the season that we're in and how we should be operating. So Jo, I see so many women burning out when they're trying to stay in the summer season. Why is that happening?
That's a big question. First of all, it's what we're told. It's what we've been indoctrinated with. That indoctrination has easily been sitting around for the last 6,000 years. That women have to completely disown our natural state of being and function like men. And I just want to put a disclaimer out there and say, I love men. I love the men in my life. I don't feel that the men that are operating in this day and age are responsible for that indoctrination. They're indoctrinated too. And, you know, this is known as the patriarchal influence, the patriarchal mindset, whichever word you want to insert that with, or the patriarchal world that we've been living in for a long time. Our knowledge as women was intentionally eradicated. And we have had to be underground with that knowledge for thousands and thousands of years. It is at present now that it's starting to resurface. Finally, there's a reclamation happening all over the world about our knowledge, but there are places where women still are not allowed to sit in circle together. They can't choose what they want to wear. They can't choose the people that they want to marry. Like, there's so many rules happening in the world for women that are still sitting in those spaces. A lot of women are not safe.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything about that except share knowledge. And that is my way of trying to shift that narrative and really equalise, go back to a space where the feminine and the masculine are equally revered, and we value both elements of those things because we have them within ourselves. We have both the feminine and the masculine within ourselves, but we're also then feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
And so the reason they're in those burnout spaces is because traditionally we would know about our cycle, first of all. It starts, we come back to the beginning of what we've already started talking about, the cycle within the cycle within the cycle. Every element of our cycle has been repressed, revoked, or condemned. So let me ask you this. This is a really deep dive. Maybe you don't want to answer this question, but when you had your first bleed, what was that experience like for you?
I was actually pretty unfazed.
Were you prepared?
No. We're at the Laurelton Market. And I just went to the bathroom and I was like, oh, so that's happening. And then of course I had nothing.
Right.
And then it wasn't until we got home like that afternoon after it all packed up that we had a cupboard in the toilet with pads. So I sorted myself out.
So you didn't really talk to your mum about it?
I went to mum after I sorted myself out and I went, hey, we're going to need more of these. And I think she got a bit flustered.
Okay.
Going, oh.
Right.
But initially I was kind of okay with it. I think as
it progressed,
as like the cramps, like that first period was fine. But like further on cycles, as the cramps came in, and then accidents at school, embarrassment, it's just like this big shame thing.
Right.
And as a dancer as well, that was worse. Having to have a period and still go to ballet class is just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't really catered for either. So it was a bit kind of higgledy-piggledy. And I hadn't started high school yet. I was just about to.
So year 6 for you?
Yeah, so it was just in that summer holidays.
Yeah.
And then so starting year 7, and then, it's very much you don't talk to people about it.
And had you had any conversation or dialogue with your mum before that, or friends?
I don't think Mum and I had spoken about it. It was more so we got that little tiny bit of information at school.
Oh, yeah? Happy Harold, was it?
No, not Healthy Harold. It was some traumatising animated video. And they pretty much they held up some pads and they're like, you're going to need these, with it, like, no further information. And then I hadn't started year 7. So when I started year 7, and I think they start on sexual education pretty early on.
Yeah,
in
it's
year
definitely
7.
in primary school. I think that
we started a bit like, and then in year 7 it was more like, this is what this is called, and this is what this is called. But it's still very much like their main focus is don't get pregnant, not so much educating people about this is how your body works and functions.
Yeah.
So all we were kind of told was, if you don't get pregnant, you're going to bleed for 5 days, and then it's going to come again. That's about it. So we're just kind of like fending for ourselves.
So it's an interesting thing, right? I could say that story is probably a rinse and repeat for the majority of women I know, if not way worse.
Yeah.
And that just is the beginning of the answer. So we are life creators, life givers. We birth babies through our bodies, and we are systematically told that process, which is part of our menstrual cycle, is wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's disempowering. It's dirty.
Disgusting.
It's taboo. Yeah. It's disgusting. You should reject it. It's an inconvenience. It's a problem.
Yeah.
So when we've been indoctrinated that for centuries, what do you think we're going to think about that?
Yeah.
Right?
We're not going to know any different.
Exactly. Yeah. And our mothers, if that deep matriarchal wisdom hasn't been passed on and presented in the way that it should be, which is, this is life-giving blood, you have the same capacity to bring life as the earth does. That's why women were so revered back a long time ago when we had matrilineal lineage, because we were so revered the same as the earth was, because the earth is a life giver. It supports our life here. Women were so connected and revered, so close to Mother Nature. And so having a cycle was a celebrated thing, because it was our connection to divinity almost, right?
Yeah.
And our ability to be and give the same as the earth does, and as does the earth's other animals.
Yeah.
And so it starts there, and that sort of mindset came in around the end of the Bronze Age and into the Iron Age. And that's when we had the shift in the way our societies were set up, and the goddess not necessarily worshipping, but the revering that we had of the divine feminine, and the goddess disappeared behind that patriarchal shadow as we moved into the Kali Yuga in Hindu terms. So, and then, as you can imagine, each element of the cycle has been stripped, rejected, bastardized, and put in a place where it is wrong. So our period, our monarch, our rite of passage, gone. See you later. We don't celebrate it. It's a chore. It's a problem. It's something you hide. It's something that's taboo. Then our next rite of passage, motherhood. Well, I'm not even going to begin to talk about how we look at motherhood. It's changed and it's gotten better, but we're not having babies. Women aren't trusted to have babies the way that we're naturally designed. It's become institutionalized. I mean, there was a whole period there where women were ushered into birthing suites. I don't know the time period. I know it was probably back maybe in the 30s or the 40s, maybe even later than that, where they were ushered in, drugged, had a baby, didn't even know about it.
They just pull the babies out.
That's right. And then they'd wake up and they're like, oh, you've had a baby. Like that went on for a big period of time. And there is a name for that period that's escaping me at the moment, and it'll come back to me while we're working, while we're talking, and then I'll let you know what that was. So that's that. And then let's talk about the other rite of passage. Let's talk about menopause, which is basically either framed up as symptoms or problems.
Yeah.
Women go mad.
Yeah.
Right? They're all over the place. They don't know what they're doing. All of the symptoms and issues are what's focused on, and none of the other part of the story, which I'm super passionate about talking about all the time. Being somebody who learnt about this in her early 40s, I have been so prepared for the next rite of passage that I am in. I'm not going to say that there aren't elements of it that suck. There are. But I think about this from the oppositional space. If one can cast their memory back to, or what they've watched their young female daughters come into Monarch, and the build-up of those hormones and how long that takes to actually transition is about anywhere from 4 to 5 years for some, maybe more. I mean, some young women are getting their periods when they're 10. So from the age of maybe 7,
Gosh.
I know, it's a scary thought. Yeah. Their hormones are shifting and building. Like, that's a couple of years. Perimenopause is the same thing in reverse, except we know a lot more. We've got life's experiences under our belt. And whatever we haven't dealt with in maidenhood comes up in menopause. So it's a deep rite of passage for us to resolve anything that we didn't resolve through that period, and then also integrate all of the rest of our learnings.
Yeah.
That is not the narrative that's being told.
No.
It's symptoms, it's problems, and it's spiritual bypasses. Women are so worried about the experiences that they're having that the medical professions are like, here, take this. And look, I'm just going to say this, and some people won't agree with it. Every woman should choose what's right for her. I'm going to start by saying that. And in saying that, I'm going to say, if you don't know what you don't know. So if you are not prepared and understanding what you're about to step into, then you're going to be floundering and not knowing, and you're going to be like, I just want to solve this problem. Whatever is put in front of me, I'll take, right? Yeah. So if you think about us when we go into pregnancy, for those of us who have done that, this will be a really common story. As soon as you fall pregnant, you start investigating, what am I going to experience, right?
Yeah.
What's this going to look like? There's lots of education around what each trimester looks like. You look into your birthing, you look into all these different things that are going on for you. And there's more and more and more of that out there. Imagine if when you fell pregnant at 3 months, someone said, here, have a tablet. And what this is going to do is this is for you going to pause all the experience your body and your brain and your emotions has until you're 9 months and you're ready to give birth. And then at 9 months, we're going to pull that. We're going to stop giving you those tablets, and you're going to feel everything from 3 to 9 months straight away. How do you think that would sit in your body?
No, not very good.
Why?
From the 3 to 9 months, there's so many different symptoms, feelings and stuff that you go through physically.
Changes, right?
Yeah, changes, and emotionally. And you have that time to adjust and go through them. And then if you don't have that time, it just gets smacked in the face. You won't know what to do with yourself.
That's what's happening for women through menopause.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of literature out there. The narrative is that it's something that we should just push under the carpet or endure. like for me personally, I supplement. I've had to supplement differently all the way along my journey, but I had the knowledge. I had the understanding of what might come, and what this means from an emotional, energetic space, what that means for me in that psychic emotional space, because it's a big, huge transition for our emotions as women and learning about ourselves.
Yeah.
So I knew that. I was so blessed to know about those things, but my mum didn't tell me. My mum still doesn't know about those things properly, because she's done the best with what she had, but she doesn't know anything about it because she was just given whatever everybody else her age group was given, right? It's the narrative that we've been given. And also, the most hilarious part is, I talked about it being the autumn time, which is the harvest time and the most powerful time in a woman's life, but we're told it's the most disempowering time in a woman's life, where we don't know what the heck we're doing. And that is just not true.
Yeah.
So answering your question about why are women caught in the summertime, it's because that's what we've been told. We don't know about the contrast between the different seasons. So on a monthly basis, we're not running the spring, summer, autumn, winter time within our menstrual cycle, because there is one. And which runs, the moon is representative of that. Its cyclical spaces are the same as our cyclical menstrual spaces. So we're just running like we're always on. And then imagine not knowing about that cycle and running your entire life till you get to menopause, and then all of a sudden going, I'm burnt out. Well, that's because you have been operating against your own internal mechanisms and cyclical nature. Because in the wintering we have a break, a reprieve. That's synonymous with the menstrual, with our menstrual time. When we come out of that, it's the build period where we're feeling better, we're creative, we put energy into things. We hit ovulation peak time, where in our superwoman, sexy lady, whatever, we're the slay queens at that time, right? And then as that disseminates and moves down, we start to pull back, glean and harvest what we've done over that cycle, and then prepare for the descent, which is that dark moon menstrual cycle place where we reflect, go inward, and look at what's right for us next. So that there's an invitation for us to do that every month. Imagine if you're not doing that every month, and imagine how long it wouldn't take that long after looking at the seasons of a woman's life and then having that play out every month to hit burnout.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because the world that we live in now, and for a very long time, there was no allowance to follow the cycle and have the rest when you're supposed to have the rest, because suddenly women are in full-time jobs and there's no allowance to have. You're just expected to work 5 days a week, 9 to 5, at the same level. Just like, that's what they expect of you. And even when, it's funny because the amount of female managers and bosses that I've had that still expect you to perform at that same level all the time, and they should know themselves that we can't do that.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, our societal structure is set up to run like a man does, because men's cycles are really different. So men's are based on their testosterone, and that's at peak in the morning, and it gets down to its lowest of night. But it resets every day.
Yeah.
We don't run like that. We reset monthly. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's more about, our cycles are more like, if you watch the tides of the water, the tides will go up and up and up and up and up gradually until they hit a peak king tide, and then they'll move back down, 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 down.
Yeah.
That's us. Like, yes, we have a peak and a trough daily of our energy levels, but from a cyclical perspective, it's a monthly cycle for us. It's a daily cycle for men. And we are in a world where we don't get to become or follow the processes that our ancient feminine ancestors did, where we'd go to the moon lodge or we'd go to the red tent, and we'd be able to sit with the women that had moved through their menopause cycle, who would hold space for the women in the red tent. And it's a deep intuitive space at that time. It was very revered because women get a lot of insight, and they get a lot of, if they know how to ground and connect, they get a lot of knowledge in that period. And traditionally they would go and share that knowledge with the rest of the community, and it would be revered. We don't have that set up anymore, but we can hold space for ourselves in that period and learn how we can do that for ourselves. But that still doesn't mean we're not turning up to work.
Yeah.
It still doesn't, it doesn't mean that we're throwing our hands in the air saying, oh, it's terrible, I can't deal. Like, that's not a reality for any of us. But there is a part in that reality where we can foster those same practices and look at lessening the load in those times, and then really scheduling a lot more in the peak times, and knowing, having intimate knowledge of what that cycle is. The first thing I do when I start working with women is we talk about, what's your cycle like? Where are you in your seasons? What's going on? So I can get a bit of a baseline in understanding how connected they are to that and how much of a role that's playing in their life.
Yeah. So talking about your journey, are we saying perimenopause? Or, yep.
Yeah.
When did you realise you were coming into that new season? And if it did cost you anything, what did it cost you to fight against it? Or did you embrace it instantly?
Okay, so before, I reckon I started perimenopause at about 42. I'm now 49. And for me, in my experience, it's come in subtly initially.
Yeah.
So I just noticed things that had just changed a little. Prior to that, I had already been sitting in women's circle for a period of time, and had a deep cyclical awareness about what I was going to transition. So when you say, what did it cost me? It cost me my time to learn. And I was happy to pay that. It cost me changing my mindset, because it was very different before that. So, and I was happy to do that. There's a lot of deconditioning that needed to happen for me to be sitting as confidently and comfortably as I am now in a space. And in saying that, there's a definite, from really good medical perspectives in perimenopause, then there's menopause, then there's postmenopause. So there's sort of 3 stages. Perimenopause is where all the crazy stuff happens, if you like. It's where all the ups and downs happen. When you're in menopause, traditionally, if you haven't had a period for 12 months, you're then considered to be in menopause. If you haven't had a period for 12 months, but then if you do get another one, in that, after that 12 months, you're still classed as being in perimenopause, because the cycle reinitiating resets it.
Yeah.
So, and I've got lots of girlfriends. It's interesting that they're at different stages. We're at the same age, but they're in different stages. So I've got another girlfriend who didn't bleed for 11 months, and then got one, and then has had 3 after. So she thought she's like, definitely must be menopausal, because I'm in 11 months. Like, I don't feel like there's and then you wouldn't believe it. It's just, it's back again. Yeah. So I'm aware of a lot of women approaching the space where I am going, I just want it to be over with. I'm sick of it. And they really are really excited to not cycle. And that can be for lots of different reasons. It can be because of whatever they've grown up with and what awareness they have around their cycle. It could be because they have a bit of a love-hate relationship with their cycle. Yeah. It could be because, their cycle has never been something that's been reliable. There can be lots of different reasons why women get to that stage. Or it could be that they're in burnout and they're exhausted and they're just like, I need it all to stop, right? So for me, I'm just so curious. So initially my libido shifted first, then I was supplementing for that and was like, okay, cool, I'm going to look at that. This is a change. I'm going to look at that.
Yeah.
And then it was my cycle stretched out over times. Now I'm in the unpredictable space of I've got a 38-day cycle and then a 27-day cycle. And it's really interesting to see, to be able to know what's going on in my world and say, are these reflections of, what is there any linkages here?
Yeah.
Curiously observe it. And then other things like, I was having night sweats, and I've noticed a difference in a few other things, like just skin changes and different bodily changes along those lines. So I'm like, yeah, cool. That is what it is. And I'm like, well, I know what it is. I'm not going to say I'm there with, a party popper and sparklers going, woo, woo, this is awesome. I know I did a lot of sitting in circle and working with a beautiful woman named Judy Mort from Artemis Rising. She was a midwife by craft, but then she also midwives women in the world. And she was fabulous, she's been a fabulous mentor for me in those spaces. And I always hear her words in my ear whenever a woman has a hot flush, or whether I have something like that, because she would always say, it's not a hot flush, it's a hot blush. It's your sexual energy rising and telling you that you're alive and you're a goddess, And that stuck with me. So now I work a lot in mindset with clients, and for that, adopting that mindset for me has changed how my relationship with this rite of passage, because I'm curious about it, and I'm like, anything that feels a little toe dragging, if you like, I'm like, but how could it be reframed?
Yeah.
And they're skills that I have as an NLP therapist as well. We do a lot of reframing and reshaping things so that we sit in a place of personal excellence. So applying those tools within a rite of passage just feels like a really normal thing for me to do. So that's been, I feel super blessed that I have had that set up going into this transitional space. And also that I've gained a lot of knowledge. I'm talking a lot about it to my daughter.
Yeah.
So that she's aware of how normal and naturalized it is. Because in my household, menstrual cycles are naturalized with my sons and my daughter. All of those things that are women's rites of passage, and like I talk to my sons about mothering techniques and different things like that, so that they too can have the best of both worlds. They get the father's perspective, but they also then get the mother's perspective. And I feel like that all my adult children are really rich in those spaces for the time and effort that I gave to invest in myself. The dividends just keep coming back in those spaces.
Yeah, and the knowledge and being able to recognize and identify the changing seasons, no matter what season it is, and no matter whether it's you or your daughter or your sons recognizing it in a partner or a friend, is powerful. And I feel like if we can all hone in on that, myself, like I have a lot of work to do. I need to learn and recognize things so that I can transition easier. And I think for a lot of women, the transitions between seasons can be quite hard because we don't like change, and that's why we fight against it. And I think we want things on our own terms as well.
I think the reason we fight change is because we haven't been taught that it's natural and normal.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because if we talk, we talked about burnout before. The burnout happens because we don't know about the cycle. And then we don't like change because we don't know about the cycle. So it's so far stretching. It's amazing how it just ripples out and turns up in most things.
Yeah.
and we don't resist it. We don't go, no, winter, you need to fuck off, and it needs to be summer all the time. We'd be over summer. How would we know what winter was if we didn't have summer in contrast?
Yeah.
So I find it's been just so liberating being able to, it's a permission slip to go, it's okay. Change is normal. Look at where it happens within our earthly context. Look at how it happens. Like when you and I are not sitting here yet in diapers, right? In nappies. I'm not going to be. But we're not sitting there because we change. We're not babies anymore. We change and we move. Yet we're so resistant to it as adults. It's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, because we love watching our children change and grow, but then we don't want to see it in ourselves. But we have to change.
Of course.
Because it's not linear.
Exactly.
In our conversation today, like you said it earlier, it's giving permission for women to stop forcing things.
Yeah.
To let it happen, find out more, educate yourself, stop measuring yourselves against, I wouldn't say old-fashioned models, because old-fashioned is what we want to go back to.
Is
back
it?
in the day.
How old-fashioned?
Well, I'm talking about...
We're ancient. We're talking ancient.
I'm talking ancient fashion.
Yeah. I mean, it would be lovely to go back to that, but we don't live in that world.
Yeah.
However, bringing those ancient teachings and principles forward into the modern world and creating a new version of what that looks like, because it's not going to look the same, is it? It's definitely ancient principles and knowledge for us as women, but birthing that into the new world looks different, refreshing and liberating.
Probably even more powerful.
Yeah.
So, Jo, what is your final nugget?
There's so many nuggets when it comes to cycles. I think the final nugget is about the fact that, you know, whether you go to a woman's circle, whether you do personal work, whether you go to a workshop or you do something, my advice is find out about your cycles. Yeah. Find out about, there's heaps of literature out there. I'm going to put some links in the show notes about some resources that people could connect with, spaces that women could connect with. It's a place that I'm super passionate about, helping women reclaim that knowledge so that they have personal autonomy and they can just relax and give themselves that permission slip to go, oh, hey, like, oh, my energy's really low today. Oh, where am I in my cycle? Oh, I'm nearly about to bleed. Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, take the pressure off, you know, or Jesus, I'm slaying and everything. I feel so empowered and I'm so, like, onto everything. Like, where am I in my... Oh, I'm at ovulation. I'm in my power cycle, you know, my power space. So giving yourself... Just find out about your cycles. You are not a lineal being. And as women, it's where our deep power lies. Our capacity to take ourselves to the next space that lies within the knowledge of the cycles. That's a good foundational space to start. For me, the big thing is get curious.
Yeah.
Get curious about, I've seen, you know, I've got a mango tree in my yard and I see when it flowers and I see when the fruit grows and I know when we harvest it because it tastes good. And then I watch it sort of almost look like it's dormant, but I know it's not. How does that work within me? Like, look for all the places and spaces where you can consistently confirm that cycle externally to reinforce the internal cycle and start to connect those dots together. Yeah. Ask yourself some quality questions like, how do I find out more? Who am I becoming in this season? What am I being asked to release? And just remembering that we're not inconsistent, we are cyclical. And that is consistent. And when you stop fighting your rhythm, you reclaim your power.
Yeah.
And look, I'm going to do that shout out. If this has stirred something within you, these are things that we cover in my up and coming workshop, And She Rose, that I'm touring Australia and Canada. It's a 2-day workshop where women learn so much, and these are some of the principles that they'll learn about, along with so much more. If you are wanting to look at that, or perhaps look at more of an intimate one-on-one style work, I've got my container called The Embodied Woman, and we go through those things, but in a personal way. What does each woman need in those spaces? So there's lots of different options out there. And also, there's a whole world full of resources that people can engage in. So start engaging.
Yeah, no excuses.
And wherever you're at, honour the season you're in. Any last words from you, Katelyn?
Yeah, embrace.
Embrace
it.
So this conversation today, what is that? Is there a felt sense of a shift inside of you? Like, disclaimer, you're exposed to my work all the time because you're working in the background, but that doesn't always mean that we're talking about everything, although we do talk a lot. But in terms of the deep dive today in that space, anything that's stirred or that you feel it shift?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had already started to stir with acknowledging that monthly cycle and using that for greater good, to benefit me. But I feel like, today's kind of, like, maybe emphasized a bit more that I actually need to get in and start looking into some things. Because previously I've just been going through the motions, not knowing any different. And trying to block things instead of like letting it happen because it's supposed to happen.
Amazing. Thanks for your insight today, Katelyn, and thank you for joining us.
No worries.
Love that you've been here. And for everyone out there and our listeners, thanks for downloading and listening to our podcast. We really enjoy chatting and trying to get to as many women as I can and we can. So until I see you next time, have a great cyclical rest of the month, and I will see you next time on Every Woman and Her Dog. Bye-bye. Firstly, a deep thank you to our guests today for their honesty, wisdom, and the courage to have those real conversations. If something's landed for you today, don't brush it off. That pull you feel, it's your next edge calling. If you'd like to explore working with me, hit me up on my socials or on my website at joannelee.com.au. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself because you're worth it. With love, Jo.